The release of Kengan Ashura Season 2 has not only revived the adrenaline rush of its predecessor, but further intensified the madness of spectating hand-to-hand combat in the most thrilling ways possible. After all, that's what the Kengan Annihilation Tournament is all about. True, we can't deny there are corporate wars happening in tandem with the fighting event, but let's face it, each match would go down to the wire with no real way to predict what would happen next, or who would emerge victorious. Well, unless you read the manga, of course. But jokes aside, the heart of all the excitement in Kengan Ashura lies in the tournament itself, and this includes the fighters themselves. The Devils Incarnate, all the fighters participating in the Kengan Annihilation Tournament belong to an entirely different pedigree, the kind of breed that is most certainly not of human standards. With their imposing physiques and admirable abilities, the Kengan fighters are capable of doing the impossible, all for one thing: to become the strongest fighter of all. While our protagonist is definitely one of the strongest, he is yet to secure the #1 position. Who then is the strongest Kengan fighter? This is the question we're going to answer in this video. Here, we will rank the top 12 fighters from Kengan Ashura based on their respective power scales, fighting techniques, and most importantly, our opinion. This list is highly subjective and might not match with your top 12, and speaking of that, we'd love to know what your top 12 is, so let us know in the comments section down below. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Akoya Seishu, aka the Executioner. Ranking at number 12, we have Akoya Seishu, one of the most righteous characters in the series. Aptly named the Executioner, Seishu is a policeman who also serves as the captain of the 44th Riot Squad. However, he isn't just someone serving the law. Seishu holds himself responsible for serving justice by punishing those who commit any sort of crime, no matter how trivial it is. Although he has an extreme perspective when it comes to the notions of law and order, Seishu's ideals are made transparent in the ring, especially if his opponent in a Kengan tournament is actually a criminal. An affiliated fighter of Wakasa Life Insurance, Seishu's fighting style is improvised by certain kinds of defense and combat techniques that are typical of policemen when engaged in a conflict. As shown in his first fight against Nintendo's fighter Haru, Seishu often resorts to the fundamentals of police training, which is an unusual wildcard. After all, how many of the Kengan fighters are even part of the police force? Yoa Sao Pang, aka the Howling Fighting Spirit. A madman trapped in a fighter's body, Yoa Sao Pang is the human manifestation of the word berserk. Known for his unfathomable bloodlust at the cost of his mortal being, Sao Pang's insanity is best expressed in his dialogue during his fight against Mikazuchi Rei in Kengan Ashura Season 1. Let them cut your flesh so you can kick their ass. From this, it's quite obvious what kind of a person Sao Pang actually is. In a way, he can be described as a self-destructive person who would go until the end, but his body doesn't seem to give up on him just yet. Well versed in the martial art of Leth Wei, Sao Pang's skull is the strongest part of his body, and his biggest weapon in hand-to-hand combat. During his fight against Yoshineria Karo, a simple punch on Sao Pang's head resulted in Karo breaking his own fingers due to the sheer impact. Besides his insane screams of excitement, Sao Pang's actions are a sight to see. He lives up to his reputation after all. Kiru Setsuna, aka the Beautiful Beast. An androgynous antagonist in the guise of a maniacal murderer, Kiru Setsuna is an old acquaintance of Tokita Om, and not the good kind. An affiliated fighter for the Koyo Academy group, Kiryu's past is very dark and disturbing. But to give you the short version, Kiryu's obsession towards Oma has always been that of a religious fanatic, where Oma is Kiryu's god, the one who would give him deliverance from his own sinful past. As far as his profile as a fighter is concerned, Kiryu is quite a prodigy in martial arts. Well acquainted with the nuances of Koi style and the infamous Nico style, Kiryu's reputation is known far and wide for his use of the fallen demon, his last resort during a situation of life and death. Bando Yoh, aka the Bloody Tusk. At number 9, we have Bando Yoh, the fighter affiliated with Juo Communications. He's an elite medical student who suddenly turned into a homicidal maniac for unknown reasons. Since his arrest, he's been hoping to work on research, primarily associated with brain sciences. It's said that Yohei's character was based on the famous fictional cannibalistic serial killer, Dr. Hannibal Lecter. Let's take a look at his powers and abilities. Although he isn't quite a martial artist like the other fighters in the series, Yohei's prowess lies in his vitals, per se. His endurance levels are off the charts due to his dense muscular physique, which is complemented by an incredible amount of strength. Yet Yohei's advantage is his hypermobility. He's capable of maintaining a crazy level of joint flexibility that an ordinary human could never even think of accomplishing in their life, be it in reality or in the anime. Yohei's unmatched flexibility, which is further enhanced by his agile movements, are the sole reason why he was able to defeat Hatsumi in a spectacular manner. Muda Gazinga, aka the Genocider. The only disabled fighter on this list, Muda Gazinga is a mercenary who hails from the Republic of Congo and is the affiliated fighter for Iwami Heavy Industries. Driven by bloodlust and violence, Muda might seem like just another fighter trying to prove himself as the strongest in the Kengan Annihilation Tournament, but there's more to him than meets the eye. It's a universal truth that losing one of the sensory organs results in the enhancement of the remaining senses, and that's exactly what happened to Muda when he lost his sight. Now, call it a common trope, but Muda's abilities are simply sensational. Due to his visual impairment, Muda's auditory and olfactory abilities are augmented exponentially. Although it might sound like a miracle, it does have a practical explanation. As a mercenary who has spent more than half of his life on the battlefield quelling conflicts, Muda is quite adaptable. In other words, the blind mercenary is capable of surviving all odds in any given circumstances, which gives him quite the edge over his adversaries, be it on the battleground or in the Kengan tournament. He's able to maneuver himself on the basis of his sensory perceptions, which also helps him to select the most effective and minimal moves to subdue his enemies. Mikazuchi Rei, aka the Lightning God. One of the most formidable participants in the Kengan Annihilation Tournament, Rei is an assassin, affiliated with Gold Pleasure Group as their fighter. He's a member of the titular Mikazuchi clan, but he made the choice to forego his obligations to the clan after he decided to follow Kyoyoshi Rino as his employer in the Kengan matches. And, well, in case you were wondering, Rei gave up his creed for his obsessive love for the charming alpha female. But let's not lose focus. Coming back to his fighting profile, Rei's very nickname, the Lightning God, implies his superhuman speed and reflexes. As a matter of fact, Rei is considered to be the fastest combatant in the entire Kengan Annihilation Tournament. This is because of his mastery in the Raishin style, an enigmatic assassination fist that has been passed down for generations in the Mikazuchi clan. This move requires the user to attain a state of oneness with their surroundings in order to channel every ounce of energy into their fist, with which they deal damage to the adversary. This is one technique that Rei was proud of, especially because of his perfect execution. However, during the course of the Kengan Annihilation Tournament, as well as the plot itself, Rei was able to come to terms with his own limits instead of battling with his own body to raise the bar. Julius Reinhold, aka the Monster. Before we jump into the details, just have a look at this guy and tell us if the nickname doesn't suit him. And FYI, there's more to this demonic facade than he carries within his corporeal form. Julius Reinhold is a German fighter representing the Toyo Electric Power Co., and he can be described as the ideal fighter both inside and out of the ring. If you were to visualize what an ideal fighter would be like, there would be two popular answers. One, an ideal fighter is skilled, talented, and thus proud of himself, which is why he's so self-absorbed. The other kind is the one with the Laconian physique, an equally disturbing set of facial attributes, and rarely says a word unless necessary. In the case of Julius Reinhold, he belongs to the second category. So, what about his fighting techniques? Reinhold's true strength is his brute force. Period. After all, this is the same guy who believes that brute strength can overcome everything, even skilled attacks. Even though he's the kind of person who kinda overdid it with special doping, Reinhold's powers include superhuman strength, endurance, and the ability to destroy anything and everything in his path. However, his persona as a fighter fails to eclipse the fact that he is, after all, a professional. This is made evident in his interactions with Wakatsuki, with whom he holds a personal grudge but still chooses to maintain a cordial relationship with. Wondering why that's the case? Stick around for the answer towards the end of this video. Ryan Kure, the Devil. If the monster didn't scare you, then the devil surely will. One of the most esteemed members of the Kure clan, Ryan belongs to a family that has been trained in the art of assassination for over 10 centuries. Representing Undermount Inc., Ryan is the perfect example of a psychopath. Be it in his behavior or speech, Ryan spews nothing but profanity and gloats about his own abilities. He is often deemed as a black sheep in the Kure clan for his uncharacteristically aggressive and zealous nature to exhibit his profound strength. When it comes to his powers and abilities, Ryan can barely qualify as a human due to his demonic attributes that are further boosted by his killer instinct. Ryan was successful in mastering the infamous Kure clan style. It's a set of techniques that enable the user to subdue an enemy by focusing all of their attacks on vital spots. Ryan's technique, however, results in his anatomy developing a reddish hue, which certainly gives off a demonic vibe, threatening enough to send chills down the spine of those who behold him. Wakatsuki Teshi, aka the Wild Tiger. Putting this guy at number 4 was a tough choice. Wakatsuki Teshi is a fighter affiliated with Furumi Pharmaceuticals, and he holds the record for the highest number of wins. Sporting a spectacular musculature and sharp facial attributes, Wakatsuki is a reserved yet friendly individual, with an analytical bent of mind. Wakatsuki is a man of few words, and he prefers to walk the talk instead. Although he prefers to follow a plan of attack whenever he steps into a match, he's not quite a rigid strategist per se. He does have the ability to modify his moves at the last minute in order to make an effective and lethal move. Speaking of his profile as a Kengan fighter, Wakatsuki's advantage is his own body. Interestingly, it serves dual functions. It takes in blows and defends the internal organs from major damage, and is also capable of inflicting lethal attacks on the opponent with gruesome force. His most remarkable technique is the Blast Core, which he uses as his last resort to take down Koo Agato. It's a powerful punch that requires all the muscles to compress all the energy into a single point in the center of the body, which would result in releasing an insurmountable force that can't be defended nor countered by anyone. In case you're still wondering why Wakatsuki is not part of the top 3, the answer is simple. He's sloppy. While his colossal physiology and fighting styles are indeed admirable, Wakatsuki fails to hold on to his powers for a long period of time. This means he often falters at the most crucial moments, leaving him with quite a disadvantage. So, who are the Kengan Ashura fighters that made it into the top 3? Let's find out. Tokita Om, aka the Ashura. Yes, our protagonist has been ranked as the runner-up to the runner-up, the reason for which you'll learn soon enough. For now, let's take a look at the Ashura himself. Being raised in the infernal place that is the inside, Oma had nothing else to do besides fight for his own survival. With the help of Tokita Nico, Oma was able to learn martial arts over a significant period of time, which culminated in his complete mastery over the Nico style. In case you're wondering what the Nico style is, check out our video on Tokita Oma's anatomy, where we've analyzed his origins, powers, and abilities, all in one convenient video. Go check that out. Unlike Wakatsuki, Oma is steadier with his moves. He's able to make the right decisions in the ring within the blink of an eye. However, we see over the course of Kengan Ashura Season 1, Oma had a hard time recovering from the effects of the possessing spirit, a special technique under Nico style which dramatically changes his physiology in a way that seems as if he was actually possessed by a demon in real life. With this, we move on to the penultimate position in this list. Koo Agato, aka the Fifth Fang of Metsudo. Koo Agato is the affiliated fighter of Dai Nippon Bank and one of the favorites of Katahara Metsudo, the former chairman of the Kengan Association. Agato is a quiet yet boastful character who has often expressed his ability to fight as per the rules set by his adversaries, such as a fighting match where only fists or kicks are allowed. This adaptability displayed by Agato not only caters to his own ego as an experienced Kengan fighter, it also throws light on his versatility as a combatant. However, he doesn't always keep his word. If he finds himself in a stiff situation, he wouldn't hesitate to hurt his own pride to break the rules and overcome his opponent. In the end, he too shares the same dream as the other Kengan fighters themselves, to be the strongest of all. Speaking of powers and abilities, Agato's major technique is none other than the Formless. It is one of the most significant stances that Agato uses very wisely, for it cracks the surface of his civil demeanor to let out the ruthless and sadistic personality within. This technique actually stems from his own desire to beat the enemy at their own game by developing the ability to adapt to any circumstance at all. In other words, Agato endeavors to hurt his opponents physically as well as emotionally, which is quite a smart move to make in a competitive tournament like Kengan. Although the Formless stance gives an illusion of power and control to its user, it does affect the latter's fighting style immensely, as it compromises their reaction time to a great extent. A harrowing flaw in the grand scheme of things, it still doesn't change the fact that Agato's adaptability is the true basis of his strength. Kuroki Gensai, aka the Devil Lance. Finally, we come to the strongest fighter in the Kengan Ashura series, and it's the Devil Lance himself. Kuroki Gensai is a well-renowned assassin in the underworld, and he represents Motorhead Motors as their affiliated fighter in the Kengan Annihilation Tournament. A man of very few words, Kuroki Gensai's only expressions are visible inside the ring. His fighting style is loosely similar to Agato's Formless, but there's a twist. While Agato agrees to fight as per the rules of his opponent, Gensai limits himself to test his abilities against any given adversary. This is exactly what he did during his face-off against Kiryu, in which he confined himself inside a circle just to make it clear to the beautiful beast that Gensai is a man who should never be trifled with. This speaks volumes of his personality. Gensai is bestowed with a wealth of information and experience regarding fighting and warfare, which he often chooses to share with his opponents during a battle. Although he disapproves of the same, Gensai does have the potential to become a good mentor to those in need of support. Coming back to his abilities, Gensai is an expert in the Kaiwan style. With this ability, a user is able to develop an adamantine nature within his hands, which would enable one to punch through solid steel only by joining their bare hands and fingers. The Kaiwan style further enhances the finger joints as well as the muscles themselves, which makes Gensai the most formidable and toughest character to defeat in the entirety of the Kengan Annihilation Tournament. Marvelous verdict! The very premise of Kengan Ashura is how corporate politics and mercantile conflicts are resolved solely by continuing with the gladiatorial traditions updated for the modern age. Sticking to the art of hand-to-hand combat as a way to win disputes and bets simultaneously, the Kengan Annihilation Tournament runs high on adrenaline and thrills of the craziest sort. This does justify how and why each of the fighters on this list craves violence and bloodshed as a way to calm their nerves. Perhaps they never want to quell the animalistic impulses that drive each of them to make the most unexpected moves in fractions of seconds. Such is the beauty of power. It fuels you with unfathomable passion and zeal to go the extra mile and become the best of the best of the best. But if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.